श्रीवर्चस्वमायुष्यम् आरोग्यम् आविधाक्षम् मानं महीयते धनं धान्यं पशुं बहु कीर्तिलाभं बहु धनलाभं शतसंवत्सरं दीर्घमायुः.
Honestly, I felt inspired and motivated after reading The Journey of Perseverance. This is certainly a book worth reading. Congratulations, Priya. You did an amazing job.
Hi, I'm Lavanya. The book Journey of Perseverance is highly motivating and inspiring. It gave me a clear picture about what success looks like. Congratulations, Priya ma'am, and thank you for a great book.
Good morning, everyone. Here we are at the Global Empowerment Summit, and can you believe it? It's the 5th week, and it's the last day of the 5th week. We have one more week to go, and I have to tell you that next week will be as exciting as all these 5 weeks before, because we will have so many workshops. I could even call next week the workshop week, because every single day we are coming up with many workshops, all of them for free, all of them with different topics. So yeah, I would suggest you just to stay tuned until I schedule everything on Monday and Tuesday, and you can go to the sessions and you can enjoy them. I will put up all the YouTube links, and you can set reminders on YouTube, or you can just follow as usual the embedded calendar on the website. So today, this morning, we have something very special. Stefan was offering for us a few modules that I was playing throughout the 5 weeks, and for today he has a very specific module about very specific problems. It's about menopause. So if you are around before and near to menopause, then maybe this is a video good to watch for you, to have some insights, to just get familiar with the topic and embrace it. And I will play this video. I hope you will enjoy it. And if you have questions, I would just suggest you to put it in the stream. Just put it in the comments, and we will come back to you with Stefan, and he will answer all your questions. Also, don't forget that we have the game going on until the 31st of December, because I would love to give you this value so that you can also digest the value what we prepared with the speakers. So how it goes, you just have to register a free ticket, then you have this application. You can read the QR code here or on the website, and you can rewatch the replays, or you can watch the last week and attend the workshops live, and you can win points, and you can be on the top of the leaderboard, and the prices are very nice. You have 5 times 500 USD value creative leadership coaching with me, or you can have a package from Solworxs. They offered it for any winners. So we will see how it goes. I would just urge you to hop in on this competition and to win the prize and learn by listening to these different videos again. Give us your feedback, your aha moments, your photos, and yeah, it's an easy way to win something very special. So let's go to today's topic and today's video. I wish you a beautiful time with Stefan. He's a very how would I say? He is a person who has a very specific view on menopause, and he's helping so many women out there. So please just enjoy and embrace the topic. And if you have questions, don't forget to put them in the comments. Okay, so let me just start the video and make it bigger.
Hi, welcome to this webinar today entitled The Menopause, the roller coaster without the safety brief. I'm Stefan Taylor, and I've been in health and wellness space for the last 22 years-ish. And for the last 12 of those years, I've been working specifically with women over the age of 35, understanding more and more as that time went on how the menopause affects them, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, how it impacts on relationships with their partners, with their friends, with their children, and how to circumnavigate some of these difficulties in order to create a lifestyle where they feel more energized, where they feel more confident from the inside out, without having to show that facade that everything's okay. And internally, they're questioning both themselves and whether they can still continue to either be at the top of their game with their career, whether their relationships will last through this very difficult time. So understanding more about how the psychological and the physical aspects of menopause affects day-to-day life, and how you can put things in place simply by understanding how your mind and body is working right now. So let's deep dive straight into this webinar and let's get started. So here we are, just about to deep dive into this webinar today, entitled Menopause, the roller coaster ride without the safety brief. And I entitled this today because so many women I speak to and have spoken to over the years have explained that this is what it feels like. It feels like we've been thrust into this time in our lives and no one really can give us any confirmed answers as to what we'll experience, why it's happening, how we can feel better going through it and out the other side. Because they hear lots of negative stories and outcomes, the destructive side of menopause. But with that, where there's always something that's destructive, there's always got to be a constructive side. So we're going to dive in today. Today we're looking at initially the psychological well-being surrounding the menopause and what, as a woman, you'll go through. And if you're a man watching this, this is going to be really insightful for you. Knowing what your partner, maybe your sister, your close friend is going through or potentially about to go through in her life. We're going to talk about the minefield of the menopause mind, the triggers, the symptoms, and the why. And then we're going to back up a stage, look at the physiological changes that create the psychological changes. So what's happening internally that changes how you think and influences how you perceive yourself or your day, or how difficult things are, or even how stressful things can become. Then collective impact on the whole you. What's the impact on you as an individual? And how does that ripple into the rest of your life? And how we can get stuck in a negative feedback loop. And then most importantly, breaking free from the cycle of struggle. And then there's something in there next I blame the Brownie law. So if you're in the UK, I'll explain what the Brownie law is. If you're outside of the UK, which is more than likely, then I'll explain exactly what it is and what that means. Then moving on to bridging the gap between the old and the new. How you manage to move from where you are, or you think you might be, to experiencing the menopause as a positive experience. There will be times where you'll be challenged physically and emotionally and psychologically in all areas of your life. But you can move in a way where you can experience more of the positives. Like I said, wherever there's a negative, there is always a positive that can come out of that. And I'll talk through something called the 5-second window that I call something to really dive into changing the course of your actions in terms of what your mind is trying to tell you. It's a little bit like when the devil on your shoulder is trying to convince you not to do something. That procrastination, telling yourself you can't do, I'm not worthy, I haven't got time to do whatever it is you're setting out to do. And breaking free from the darkness, creating a brand new vision for yourself, and then recognizing yourself on the other side of menopause. And then obviously in here, we have a Q&A. So I'm going to leave my email address at the end, and you can send me any questions you want to send me regarding your menopause experience, or if you're a man, concerns about your partner or your wife or your sister or a close friend of yours. And I will get back to each and every one of you with some answers as to how to help and create changes in your life. Then that same email address will have or give you access to the second part of this webinar today. Are you ready to get going? Show me a thumbs up wherever.
Okay, there is a technical issue, so I will just fix it very quickly. I will add another video, so just bear with me. I will stop the screen and I will share it again. So in the meantime, don't forget, we have a lot of things coming up today. I know it's a Sunday, maybe you are sleeping. So if you are,
let's have some interaction. I know it's a webinar.
Okay, let me see. I think it's happening again. So I will just share it again. Technical issues are coming in and out. All right. I think it should be okay. Let me see.
And you're watching, but show us a thumbs up. Just put a thumbs up to the screen. Say, I'm ready to dive in. Did you say it? Let's get going. So why am I doing this? Let's kick off with that, really, because clearly I'm a man. Why am I in the field of helping women experience perimenopause and menopause in a better way? What makes me qualified to be able to do that, to talk to you today? Basically, for potentially around 30 years, I experienced difficulty with my self-identity. I found it really difficult to express myself for who I felt I was, because I'm part of a mixed race family. So my dad's Bayesian from Barbados. Yes, amazing. What an amazing island. Have you been? If you haven't, you should go. And my mum is white from England, a lovely country. I live there right now. So I found it difficult to have a sense of identity growing up in a place where there was only my brother, who had a skin color which was different from everybody else. In the school I was in, there was myself, my brother, and in secondary school, there was 2 Pakistani boys as well. So we were very much the minority, and it caused me a little bit of difficulty. So I masked my internal feelings with an external facade that everything is okay. I just pretended it wasn't an issue, and I just got on with it. But internally, I was battling, and it caused me difficulties with self-belief, understanding my self-worth, creating opportunities for myself. But I knew deep down I had more to give. And I quickly recognized through the job and the career I chose, I was a helper type person. And I recognized through study, through training, through education, that psychological similarities are in all of us, irrespective of whether you are a teen, whether you're in your early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, our brains all work the same way. The difference is the narrative we attach to that difference. All right. So if our brains work the same, we can understand how the brain works and how the physiology of our bodies work in order to create the success we want, the happiness, the energy, the vitality. So we can manipulate these things in order to get what we want. And I quickly discovered that health was less about the physical, the exercise part. And I know I'm stood there in a pair of shorts. That was a challenge I did when I was 41 years old. A friend challenged me to do that. I was scared beyond my life in that photo. Yes, I'm smiling, but inside I'm a nervous wreck. I understood that health was less about the physical and more about the psychological, because health is all about your habits. So think about this for a moment. You have been taught by your parents or guardians to brush your teeth once, hopefully twice a day. Now that's a habit. A vegan will create a habit surrounding their nutrition based on their beliefs and values. Now, if it's a habit, you live your life by those habits. And when you have those habits, it helps create health. So how you interact with food, sleep, technology, friends, family, exercise, stress, they're all habits that you create over time. So understanding that means that the psychological influences your outcome. So as I said about the teeth cleaning and the vegan, if you go on holiday, for instance, do you still clean your teeth? You don't say, I'm taking a break from life right now, so I'm just gonna not bother cleaning my teeth for 2 weeks. It's a habit. You continue with that habit. Does that make sense? If it does, just say yes. It doesn't matter that there's no one replying. I can hear you. So the vegan, for example, the vegan will not say, man, I'm having a super stressful day at work this week at work. So I'm just going to eat meat until everything calms down. Or I'm really struggling with stress from my partner. I'm just going to have a few bacon sandwiches. They don't do that. It's a habit. It's instilled in them that creates the value in their lifestyle that they get from it. So I learned from my own lows to change what I thought was impossible into something which was possible very quickly. And this is forming the basis of how I help women through menopause. Obviously, there's a physiological difference between myself and every single woman out there, but hopefully you can see from some of those examples of what I've experienced that there's some crossover. And there is, because I've spoke to lots of women about it, and we've shared our stories about it, and we can share common ground. So let's move straight into the menopause. The second spring, whether it's celebrated or feared. Now, what is the menopause? It's a minefield, but basically what's happening is falling sex hormone levels. The main two, progesterone and estrogen, the main two sex hormones in every woman. Estrogen, for example, is in control of secondary sexual characteristics and helps regulate menstrual cycle, particularly during the first phase of your menstrual cycle. And progesterone is secreted mainly during the second phase of the menstrual cycle and helps prepare the endometrium for potential pregnancy. But there's secondary and even higher level impacts of falling sex hormones. The minefield of the menopause mind comes down to understanding these things, because you can get estrogen dominance even though your estrogen levels are falling during perimenopause. And I mean, perimenopause can begin, and generally does begin, around the age of 35. So if you're around the age of 35, this is something that may, well, should be of interest to you. If you're in your 40s, potentially this is happening right now. And the fall happens into the menopausal phase, but it can still become the dominant sex hormone because progesterone levels drop first and they drop faster. And it sends something called your endocrine system into turmoil. Now, your endocrine system is basically your hormonal pathways, your hormonal system, how they're created, what they influence, and what you experience in life as feelings, emotions, and how you then may potentially begin to struggle with the same thing you dealt with really easily 3-4 years ago, but now you're finding difficult because of how these hormones are falling individually and collectively. And it's a really fine balance between regulating your hormonal system, because it's responsible for balancing your weight, your mood, your female characteristics, how you sleep, how much energy you've got, and how much energy you burn, your metabolism, and so much more. And the next one, falling estradiol. Estradiol, functionally, it's related directly to your menopause. So falling levels of estradiol can lead to fat storage, increased fat storage, and particularly if you're in perimenopause or going through the menopause, you'll realize maybe you're holding some more fat around your abdomen, around your hips, pelvis area, but also around the organs internally. So it's super important to understand what's happening physically so it doesn't impact heavily negatively on the psychological way of you looking at yourself and your situation. And obviously the onset is insidious. You don't just wake up one morning and your estrogen levels, your progesterone levels have just plummeted. I do speak to some women, having said that, and it can feel like a switch has gone off. And they do wake up feeling a little bit, something's not right. And then they can't get back to what the previous days, weeks, months were like for them. And sometimes it's a case of noticing life's just becoming a bit too much and how you deal with that thing. The most important thing there is, as the image shows, is asking for help and support. You shouldn't be dealing with this all by yourself, locking it away, trying to bury it, because it makes it more frustrating, creates more stress. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense to you? Yes? Good. If it doesn't, I'll share my email address at the end. Now, this is from a client I've worked with, and she made an amazing transformation from where she was. She was in her late 30s when I met her, and she said, this has been going on for so long now, I can't remember the last time I felt good about myself. I'm beginning to think there's no hope. That's what she said in her own words to me when we very first met on the very first phone call. Now, sometimes I'll speak to women and you don't share a lot because of fear of judgment, maybe, or for whatever reason you don't feel like sharing that sort of information. Christiane shared this really powerful statement with me, and I'm really glad she did, because it really showed me that she wanted to actually reach out and create some change for herself, because it was so painful for her. Now, if you go and look at a symptoms list, if you do a Google search and list of symptoms for perimenopause or menopause, there could be up to 30, maybe more. And it's things like hot flushes, more than usual breast tenderness, tiredness and fatigue, lower sex drive, just not feeling sexy about yourself anymore, or rarely, increased levels of PMS or PMT, having trouble sleeping, maybe because of waking up, you're too hot 1 minute, you throw the covers off, then you're too cold, then you throw them back on and you're too hot again. Having vaginal dryness can be really difficult, because it leads to painful sex, clearly, and then that leads to having a lower sex drive because you know it's going to be painful, and can lead to difficulties in relationships if it's not spoken about. Obviously, there's super simple ways of getting around that if you choose to do that. If you find that your physical relationship is important for you and your partner, it's about discussing that to make sure you both understand and you're on the same path. There's mood swings, 1 minute feeling great, the next minute, oh my goodness, it feels like the world's going to implode. Like I said, there's so many for me to list. And I'm sure you may be saying to the screen right now, well, what about this? I'm feeling this. I understand that. I've been told so many things, and you could probably go on to a very extensive list of maybe 30 or 40 things related to menopause symptoms. So what's the big why? Why so many symptoms? Well, I mentioned about your hormones are controlled by something called your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is basically how your hormones are produced, how much of that hormone is produced, and what else is influencing your endocrine system to either produce more or to produce less. Okay, so we have an inbuilt system that releases hormones, and we have hormones that tell us we feel hungry, we feel full, we feel sleepy, we feel awake and energized, but also how calm we feel, how positive we can feel within ourselves. So influences from hormones affects so many things in our lives. And then if they're out of balance, it can impact our thoughts and our beliefs as to what we can and can't do. So imagine feeling tired all the time because of a hormone imbalance. The belief system is that I can't do that thing anymore, even though a hormonal imbalance can be rebalanced. Okay, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just about thinking it's game over. What also influences symptoms is there may be a past history of struggles with mental health, because it impacts your current state. So women who have had past battles with their own mind, psychological difficulties, maybe depression, postnatal depression, often find it more difficult as they experience menopause. Having a lack of knowledge is a big one, because certain symptoms can be put down to the wrong thing. If you don't believe there's a solution, you can put it down to something else. It's just the menopause. I have to deal with it. Nothing's going to change. And that leads on to the next one, a refusal to accept change either isn't possible or that it's a necessity. There are parts of lifestyle choices where there is a necessity to make some changes, small changes in your life, to be able to rebalance that endocrine system, to experience life with more pleasure, with more vitality, with more happiness in your heart. And society's pressures to remain in a box. You should be able to just carry on spinning all those plates. There could be expectations from your partner There could be expectations from your employer or your employees that you still operate at exactly the same level. And it causes society's pressures. Also, looking the same way, a certain way. You should look a certain way. Social media is full of expectations, airbrushed pictures, and it leads people down a very dark alley of thinking they should look like that. Unfortunately, I think we're coming towards the end where there's light at the end of the tunnel, where people understand it's all false. It's all built around the airbrush and a false context, and having a lack of support, either from family, friends, work, GPs, and definitely from the health and fitness industry. And this is a big driver for me to help plug that gap. So your ecosystem is controlled by you and your surroundings. All right. So your ecosystem can be flourishing like the picture on the left. And your ecosystem is basically what's happening internally, your physiology. You can influence that by your lifestyle, by your choices, if you believe it's possible. So you can flourish into your second spring. Or like the image on the right, it can feel there's no hope. It's very bleak and barren. There's no hope. I just have to deal with it myself. I can't share this with anybody else. A friend told me that this is what I should expect. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be through choice that you explore the possibilities of your own ecosystem when you're talking about the relationship between you and your body and your mind and what you can experience in your life. But let's back up a stage. Let's look at the physiological shifts that create the psychological change. Physiological changes are going to happen to every woman who's fortunate enough to go through the menopause. So I try and emphasize the word fortunate enough to go through the menopause, because not all women make it to that point of going through the menopause. Some women don't live that long to go through the menopause. So for every woman who's fortunate enough to go through the menopause, and because the concept of this being an awful time, a difficult time, a time that's shrouded in discomfort and negative connotations, then this leads to psychological shifts that act only to compound experiences into feelings and then into emotions, and further into sharing those emotions and feelings with others. So what do I mean by that? I've said a lot in a very short paragraph. So basically, if you experience something that you perceive as negative and you haven't been able to, for whatever reason, through support, through knowledge, education, understanding, being able to find a solution, you'll sit with that experience in like a fog. And then imagine a friend comes up to you and you know she's 10 years younger. And she says, how are you experiencing the menopause? You'll tell that friend exactly what you're going through. And it will be the truth. You're not lying to her. It will be the truth. You've experienced negative outcomes, negative experiences of perimenopause or menopause, and you pass that information on. And it becomes like a snowball effect, and it spreads like a virus. So you might get several friends together, and you may have experienced this. One woman, one of your girlfriends goes through or begins to go through the menopause before you, and she tells a terrible tale. And then that filters into all of her girlfriends' minds. The expectation is it's going to be negative. If you have daughters, nieces, sisters, close family, close female friends, how would you rather they experience the menopause? As a negative or as a positive experience? Because that can all start with you. I have a daughter, she's 16. So at the moment, there are very random cases of teenage girls going through menopause, well documented. She's going to experience changes in her body later on down the line. I know I'm here to be able to answer any questions. whether she wants to talk to me about those issues, I'm planting a seed right now and discussing the biology, talking about feelings, sharing my feelings, encouraging her to share her feelings. So I'm planting a seed now for her to feel comfortable asking me questions, because she knows this is the field I'm in. But it starts with you. Now, Groundhog Day. Days begin to merge into one. And the women I speak to often describe this to me. It feels like you're moving from one day to the next, and it's like a fog that you're living in, and you create a narrative in your head that this is real life and the only way to be and to feel. There's no other option. I just don't feel like me anymore. I feel guilty for focusing on myself. I've been struggling by myself. I feel selfish having time for me. I'm frustrated because my body just doesn't feel the same. Now, quite often I'll speak to my clients and we'll talk about it, and I'll ask them questions, and they'll share these feelings with me, and they'll say, I've been holding this in for so long. It's so good to get it out. It's so good to share this with somebody. I can't even speak to my best friend about this. I can't even speak to close friends about it. I can't even speak to my mother about it, because the previous generation were almost a put up and shut up. Keep calm and soldier on. I'll get through it kind of mentality. And it worked for them at the time. But we live in a different time now where we can ask questions, share our feelings, and generally not feel like we're going to be judged. So what's the collective impact on the whole you? Quite often there's a singular or collective narrative that this is the only way to experience the menopause, unless you're one of the very few women who breezes through the menopause seemingly unaffected. That's very few. I've spoken to a few of those. And this creates a negative feedback loop. So you experience something negative, you perceive it's going to happen again. So the likelihood of it happening again is high. You don't change anything about your lifestyle habits. You choose poor lifestyle habits where you think it's helping, but it's not, which perpetuates the feedback loop of negativity. It puts and piles pressure on relationships between couples, between women and their children, work colleagues, friends, family members. It feels like you're not in control of yourself. Being in public, being afraid of when the next hot flush is going to come. That anxiety of anticipation can accelerate the onset of that happening. So how our mind can work against us is super important to understand. Now, this one is huge for me. When I found this out, that the average age of divorce in opposite sex couples in the UK in 2018 was 47 for men and 45 for women. All right. And the majority of those divorces were initiated. There was a higher percentage of divorces initiated by the woman than by the man. Now, what that means to me, that there is lots of friction in and around the perimenopause leading into the menopause state. And couples don't talk about it. Couples generally don't discuss things about what's going on in their deepest mind, even though it can really help. Reaching out to quick fix companies and possible solutions. Now, there's so many on the market, and I'm talking about quick fix diets, quick fix exercise plans where you blast your body for 2 weeks. You feel a little bit better, but it impacts heavily on your hormonal system for it then to try and recover. Diets don't work. We know that. Quick fix exercise plans don't work. We all know that too. You end up reaching out to vices to ease the inner turmoil. Alcohol consumption as a band-aid is a huge one.
I've had a really stressful day. I deserve this glass of wine, G&T, or even beer. I deserve it. It's been so tough. It's a really tough one because it significantly negatively impacts sleep quality. Sleep quality then impacts your hunger hormone. So the less quality sleep you get, now I'm not talking about how long you're in bed for, I'm talking about the quality of your sleep. So less quality sleep increases hunger hormones. So you wake up the following day feeling hungry, not being able to control the cravings that you might experience. You bought all the right foods. You're prepared for the following day, but you wake up in the morning with a craving, you can't understand why. The next one, SSRIs, antidepressants, the highest in women in their 40s and 50s. To me, that's crazy. To me, sorry about that. To me, that is crazy because that's when you as women are going through and within the deepest part of perimenopause and into menopause. I've spoken to a lot of women who will tell me, I went to the GP, I went to my doctor, went to my consultant, and he offered me two solutions, antidepressants or HRT. I didn't want to go on HRT at the moment, so I took antidepressants. Antidepressants adversely affect your gut health. This is super important. Remember this one. 80% of your happiness, your happy hormones, 80% of them are produced in your gut. So if antidepressants negatively impact gut, destroy good gut bacteria, it reduces how good the gut is at producing your happy hormones. Do you see what I mean? Wow, mind-blowing. Dieting, as I mentioned, at most they last around 28 days. And then what happens? If you've been on a diet, you know, you're back to square one. So going back to the teeth cleaning example, you don't go on a sabbatical from cleaning your teeth for 28 days. After doing it for 28 days, if you're moving from one style of eating, going on holiday, taking up another style of eating, coming back and beginning again, you're on a diet. There's no consistency. It's about having a healthy habit. Diets are about how you relate food to your lifestyle and your values as a person. Rapid weight loss programs, exactly the same. It's a vice you reach to for a quick fix. An extreme exercise thrown in, exactly the same. This, thankfully, is beginning to die out. Do more exercise and eat less food. A very old model, and can work, and maybe has worked for you in your 20s or 30s, because the body's very forgiving in your 20s and 30s. With this hormonal shift, with the changes in your sex hormones and how that impacts your body, your mind, your outlook on life, doesn't work anymore. So I actually teach exercise less or don't exercise and eat more. That's what I teach. That's what I share with the clients I work with. How does that sound? And endless searching on the web, constantly typing. Weight loss for menopause. The best diet for weight loss for women over 40. How do I achieve a bikini body over 40? Whatever that search may be, they're highly popular. Now, moving on to breaking the cycle of the struggle. Who wants to break that cycle? If you're in the throes of it right now, do you want to break the cycle? Or if you are over the age of 35, you know you're going to be experiencing some perimenopausal symptoms, struggling with weight management, not sleeping that well, a little bit more anxiety is creeping in here and there, and you don't want to go through this. Is this important? First off, it's important to understand what are some possible triggers for these deep-seated belief systems. Where do they come from? Who teaches us how to behave? Now, this is where I talk about the Brownie Law. So in the UK, we have brownies and guides and cubs and scouts for boys. The Brownie law, when I read this, a client of mine showed me this, and I could not believe it. Because the Brownie law, the first thing that girls are introduced to from the age of around 7 is this Brownie law. A Brownie guide thinks of others before herself and does a good turn every day. Wow. Okay, so the second part of that, and does a good turn every day, is great. Helping others. The first part of that is thinks of others before herself. Now imagine being taught that at the age of 7. You may well be listening to this and you know this, you've seen it. It's like a throwback to your childhood, but now you can look at it from a different angle. If you're taught to think of others first, now imagine fast forwarding maybe 30 years and you're in your late 30s, early 40s or older, and you still have the same belief system. Put others first, because potentially now have a family or a partner or a career or a business or all three, and you're spinning all those plates. Your intuition will tell you to think of others first before yourself. Who feels a little bit like that sometimes, that you feel like you can't put yourself first and there's an element of guilt, even though you know it's going to benefit everybody else? Anyone experience that? Because understanding where these thoughts come from, I'm not saying we all have to deep dive and dig up all of our past, but it can be as simple as understanding, why do I struggle? Or asking the question, why do I struggle to put myself first? Maybe it's because you were told to. Maybe it's because that was expected of you when you were growing up. Maybe that's the education you had. Maybe that's the influence that was given to you by mentors, coaches, guides. Does it have to be that way? No. Where there's an option, there's always the opposite option. And can they still both have a massive impact? Yes. Putting others before yourself has a huge impact for everyone else, but very little for you. If you put yourself first, it has a huge impact for you, and then the ripple effect has a huge impact for everybody else. It's like a win-win. It's not that simple though, is it? It's about understanding how you navigate when the devil on your shoulder says, you're going to feel guilty doing this. You shouldn't do it. It's going to take up too much time. You won't be able to take care of the children. They're going to suffer, blah, blah, blah. The devil on your shoulder is going to create a narrative which draws you back through guilt. But we can solve that. Bridging the gap between the old and the new version of yourself. Let's move on to that. So there's negative connotations attached to the menopause. And those are that a woman is coming to the end of her useful lifespan, her childbearing years. Now, people don't necessarily say that to each other, but that can be what it feels like. And that's what clients sometimes tell me, that's what it feels like. Knowing that your fertility window is closing and one day will stop suggests an unhappy feeling, and negative emotions are the only emotions you should feel or expect. So that's related to the first one. However, I love this from China because it's known as, I mentioned it earlier on, in China it's known as the second spring, a time when women often find a new and more confident voice because they're free from expectations of bearing children. What an amazing way to look at it. And again, like I said before, there's always another option. And the Chinese women have it down to a T, in my belief. Imagine growing up that you were moving towards the second spring where it was a time to find your new voice of confidence. Imagine that. The conversations they have collectively are going to be different, aren't they, to potential conversations had in the West by women of the same age. And your perception of where you're going will dictate your current feelings and emotions surrounding the journey you're taking. So a perception of something can influence how you experience that thing one way or another. So how do you want to perceive menopause to be? Now, it means you have to delete all of the negative stuff that you've heard, read, all right? How do you want to experience it? What do you want to have a perception of it being like? Because it's about having that vision. If you have that vision, it creates belief. The belief creates a desire to search for the solutions for you, because you know the ripple effect is going to impact the people you love the most. Because it is all about perception. Realizing you can create amazing futures from your current position is the very first step. The images there you see on the screen say it all. From coal comes diamonds. Some guidelines to follow to help bring perspective into the present moment. Ask yourself these things. Where am I getting my information from? Is it trustworthy? Am I just seeking out the same answers? Are there any alternatives to my current belief system? What do I believe menopause is going to be like? If that's one option, then search the complete opposite. As an example, menopause is going to be a difficult struggle for women. Then the opposite search would be menopause is an experience which is positive and life fulfilling. Search that instead. And who are the people around me, and how are they compounding this belief system? Do they help, or do they hinder? What are they doing? And how am I compounding my own belief system? What are you doing for yourself? And are there any women that you know who are living their preferred life? Ask yourself that. Have a look around, because quite often we can be very tunnel visioned. And there might be a woman that you work with, is a work colleague, is a close friend, who is within your friendship circle that's living her preferred life, even though she's going through the menopause. Ask those people. Now, this one can be a game changer, and often is. The 5-second window, creating change in a heartbeat. The 5-second window is all about identifying triggers, thoughts, and people, and maybe environments that are causing you to follow the broken system. Then you can begin to implement change. All right. So being more self-aware. What's caused me to feel like this? Let's back up a stage, not just feel immersed in that situation, in that feeling. It's taking a step back. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling really anxious. It's a feeling. What's caused this? You might have to back up several stages. Now, the 5-second window can be used to prevent thoughts from becoming feelings and emotions and escalating out of control. Because 90% of your thoughts, of my thoughts, are delivered nicely packaged from our own subconscious. And our subconscious basically is a treasure trove of memories and experiences. So if you've experienced something that you struggled with in the past, it will affect how you apply yourself to a similar thing today. Hence why we have the devil on our shoulder. It can lead you back to where you wanted to escape from before. So I tried dieting in my 20s. It didn't work. I couldn't make it stick. But at the same time, you may be enjoying partying, going out, traveling the world. So the diet thing really wasn't the right time to do it. And then fast forward maybe 15, 20 years, and you're trying to change your diet again. And your subconscious tells you you can't do it, you can't sustain it, but it's based on what you did before, but it doesn't tell you about the circumstance. Does that make sense? If you've constructed a negative perception of yourself or the menopause or both and what it entails, then it will be loyally regurgitated back to you on a daily basis from your subconscious. The subconscious mind is part of emotions and feelings. Now, on the flip side of that, the conscious mind is the logical mind, our ability to create a binary response, quick response like that. to a situational thought. So, as an example, you sat in the kitchen and you are in a Teams meeting, you're on a Zoom meeting with a client. We're all working from home or have done. And you know your child is happily playing in the next room. They're old enough to play by themselves, by the way. Let's just paint that picture. There's no neglect going on. And then they race in. They've fallen over in the garden and they've cut their hand really badly. You're in the middle of a meeting. Now, if you use your subconscious mind and feelings and emotions, you'll be emotionally invested in what you're doing. You might say, can you just put a bandage on it? Can you just wet a towel and put it on? You can see what's happened, but you don't want to tear yourself away from the Zoom meeting. If I tear myself away from the Zoom meeting, I might get fired. I might get reprimanded. That doesn't happen. You quickly move into conscious mind, logical mind. You make your excuses and you go and tend to your child. Logical, binary response. I've got to go. My child's just come in. They've severely cut their hand. I'll be back shortly. Subconscious versus conscious. Your subconscious mind throws emotions and feelings at you and doubts and concerns about what you can do or what you should do. Now, it's been shown that women perceive target emotions to a greater degree than men. Emotions that are thought to be attached to a certain situation, thought, or experience, according to the research I've read. So using the 5-second window gives you the power to consciously take charge, make a binary decision. So within this time frame, you can go from destructive thought to taking a positive action. Example, you know you're on or have begun a healthy eating regime. Your mind can say to you, you haven't got time. You haven't got time to prepare that food, even though it might only take 10 minutes. You haven't got time to prepare that food. Just grab a quick coffee and skip lunch and have something afterwards. That's subconscious, giving you a destructive thought. Now, the 5-second window, it's been shown that within 5 seconds, you have the ability to consciously engage with that thought and change your subsequent action. 5 seconds, the 5-second window. Now, it's practice. Because if you leave your subconscious to continue past the 5-second window, it becomes harder and harder, because the subconscious mind has a full arsenal of emotions, put downs, excuses, alternatives to bring you back to what was your comfort level, comfort zone, even though you don't want to stay there anymore. You don't want to stay drinking coffee all the time, skipping meals, feeling stressed. You want the other thing. You want the calm. You want feelings of health and vitality and energy all day, so you can perform your role much better. You're one decision away from changing your current situation with the 5-second window. Engage with it, listen to that thought, and question it. Do I really have to have a coffee? Is it really going to save me time? Will I actually feel better? How long will that meal take me to prepare? It might already be in the fridge prepared for you. The 5-second window. You're one decision away from changing your health forever. So that's as long as it takes in order to interact with a subconscious thought. Does that make sense? If you want some more information, as I said, I'll share my email at the end and you can email me any questions you've got. Now, breaking free from the darkness. I use this part in the program that I run for all of my clients. And we're just going to look at surface level here today, because we all have a constructive and a destructive side to ourselves. All of us have that positive voice and the negative voice. It sometimes feels like the negative voice is really quiet. It's talking quietly, it's whispering. And then it feels like the negative voice, the devil on our shoulder, is shouting louder. is in control and we can't do anything about it. But you can, because it's not about control, it's more about acknowledgement and changing course to fit in with how you'd rather feel. Recognition of a thought and feeling using a 5-second window. Practice it, have a go at it, see how you get on. Any skill that is worth having is worth practicing, because at the end of the day, you are not your thoughts. Let that sink in. You are not your thoughts. Over time, we can begin to believe we are our thoughts. So people do begin to believe they're not worthy, they're not enough, they aren't good enough. They begin to believe they can't achieve the things they set out to achieve. They begin to believe they are their thoughts, but we are not. We are separate from our thoughts. When you practice the 5-second window, you begin to separate yourself as a beautiful, loving, caring human being away from those thoughts. And you can begin to observe the thoughts, interact with them, and make decisions that will influence your menopause journey, relating to how you sleep, how you use or drink alcohol, how you, or if you exercise, what you're eating, and the habits you're creating. The habits you're creating will influence your lifestyle and how you experience your life, because the habits you have influence your endocrine system hugely. So you can be boosting your sex hormones with lifestyle habits and choices that positively affect how you feel and your physiology, and ultimately how you look in the mirror, and even the numbers on the scales. There's a lot to do with your genetics also, yes, but you have more power to change your course of action than maybe you thought possible before. You can break free by observing what your mind is telling you about your menopause experience. Listen to it. What is your mind telling you about the menopause experience? It might be saying things now. What's it saying? If you think about menopause, what do you think about? So whatever's come into your mind, search the opposite thing. Look to find value in someone that can share that information about creating the opposite thing to what maybe you thought of, if it was negative. Set out your own intentions for how you would like to experience the menopause. List them down now. List them down. What are some intentions? How do you want to experience the menopause? How do you want to experience your second spring? How do you want to experience life in 10, 15, 20 years? Because it's based around how you implement those small changes to habits now. And reach out for support. That's the most important thing to do. Someone who supports your intentions. Surround yourself with women or men who have a similar outlook. Positivity is the way forward. Positivity creates more positivity. It's like a virus, the positivity virus, or you get the negativity virus. So you can have a group of girlfriends, a group of friends who generally are really positive, but they share a negative narrative about something. And just observe the resistance and choose to push past it. Make the choice. I accept some things will challenge me. You haven't got to where you've got to right now in life without resistance. An aeroplane always takes off into the wind. Now, recognizing yourself on the other side of menopause is super important, because you're an amazing woman already. You are amazing and have achieved so much in your life. Look back, have a think about some of the amazing things you've done that maybe you're just taking for granted. You are an individual amongst the world, a world of individuals. No one is like you. Not one other person is identical to you. Not one person, even if you're a twin. You are your own woman. Embrace it. The vision you have deep inside of you can reveal itself without judgment. Who you feel you are inside, surround yourself with the right people, create the right narrative. The vision you have of yourself inside will come out without you fearing being judged by others. People who judge others live in fear of being judged themselves. You are caring, you're loving, you're beautiful, you are strong. You can fit your own life jacket first. This enables you to be able to help and support those you love from a position of greater health, well-being, energy, creativity, and joy. Embrace your inner you as you approach your second spring. Because if you're struggling at the moment with the physical elements of moving through life, and what I mean by the physical is maybe your weight, maybe how you feel you look in your clothes, maybe you feel you're constantly pulling your blouse or shirt away from you because you're conscious about your midsection. But you're currently the version of yourself that reflects your past thoughts. Now it's time to become the version of yourself that reflects who you want to be. And that starts right now. Are you in? Now, as I said right at the beginning, if you would like to ask me a question, send me a direct email and I'll get back to you personally. Stefan@60daystosuccess.com. Yes, that's the program I run, but it's just my email address as well. Send me an email. Also saying there, I want to watch part 2. And I'll send you part 2 for you to be able to watch. So send me any questions. If you're a man and you're worried about your wife, girlfriend, sister, close friend, send me a message. If you're a woman, send me a message if you'd like some support. I can share some really interesting tools, tips, and maybe checklists. I have oodles of checklists I can send you for free. I hope that was informative. I look forward to hearing some feedback. As I said, please be in touch. You are amazing. Thank you.
It. Hope you liked it. Hope you rewatch it. This is informative. It's everything is inside what you have to know, and you also have the email address from Stefan. And if you have questions or you want to reach out, please do so. I know this was a lot of information this morning, but I thought that this topic is also important, as at the end, our topic this year is the young and the wise be both together. So we have to deal with problems that are concerned with the young generation and with the wise generation too. So if anyone is struggling with menopause or around menopause and is curious about menopause, then this video will help you too. So please just rewatch it, save the video on YouTube, and then just keep it in your watch later videos, and make sure that you are checking it when you need it, and reach out to Stefan. Stefan is amazing. So as all the other speakers, we will have a little bit of break, and very, very soon I will come back with Edward Zia. Edward Zia is from Australia, so Simfong, another Australian fan is coming, who is sponsoring whole Australia, because all the speakers coming from Australia are in the community from Edward Zia and Leslie Zia. They are doing an amazing job in community building. I'm right now learning from him all the tips that he is having and he's giving to me, and I believe that's a loving community, it's a safe community, and he did an amazing job, and we will talk about this a little bit more after a little break, coming back at around 10:30. And you don't really have to change channel, because we will be on the YouTube channel live. Before I close this video, just let me tell you a little bit about what's coming next. So we will have Edward coming up about community building. Then straight after that, I have someone from the Silicon Valley. Tyler Suard is someone who is working in AI for a long, long time. And we will talk about the AI in general, like what it is, what can you do with it, and also women in AI, which is an interesting question because more and more women are switching to tech and more women are the STEM. So it's kind of like an interesting and hot topic today. Then we will have a little lunch break and then we come back with a panel discussion about creative leadership, which is one of my favorite topics. Hope you can make it. We have amazing speakers lineup coming up. And then we have Layla, another topic that is close to my heart, the necessity of self-love. Layla is sometimes called Dr. Love because she's doing so many things in this area. And she is a lecturer and she's doing a lot of presentations all around the world about this topic. Then a very, very special workshop is coming up. With Your Beat Malaysia, which is a drum session, a percussion session. I have never done anything like this. And if you're interested in having fun, being together, making some noise, feeling the music, then please join in this session. I'm sure that you will have fun. It's from 4 p.m. Malaysia time, so it's available for South Africa, Europe, and also for Malaysia and other parts of Asia, according to the time zones. Then we have Anita coming up in the evening after the dinner break about leading with influence. Again, a workshop. So as you know, workshops can be accessed very easily from a Zoom room, which you can have the link to at the website at the schedule page. You just have to click on the session on the embedded calendar, the title, and then it will pop up the Zoom link and you just have to click it and join us in the room. Then we have 2 more panels today, closing the day. One of them is Intergenerational Empowerment, which is a TG group from Australia and Malaysia. They are coming in. It's an empowerment group from psychologists and counselors who are supporting people in need and crisis. And then the last thing today, the most exciting panel, the Generation Gap, led by Michael Theos from Thriving Talents. I'm really excited about this because this is a topic which is kind of like the topic of the summit. Let's see what they have to say about generation gap. And don't forget, this is not the last week. We have 1 more week to go. And next week, we are having so many things coming up. It's a full packed week with almost 15 different workshops every single day, 2 or 3 workshops popping up. So make sure you check that calendar. Make sure you save those workshops into your own calendar and you are turning up and being there in these rooms, because the topics will be just blowing your mind. It's all offered for free. I cannot promote it. You are there. If you want to be for yourself, please be there. If you're not there, then please watch the replays and play with us with the QR code here in the top of the screen. So let me have a little break and a little water, and I'm coming back with Edward. Full pack day today, and I'm hoping that you will keep it up and you will continue to change your mindset with us at the Global Empowerment Summit. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Simfong, for being here. So like my cheerleader. Every time I see you in the comments, I'm happy. Thank you very much for being who you are. And let's go play the teaser and see you in a very few minutes with Edward Zia, the community builder.